Dear friends, I'm operator Starsky, and this is day 1146 of Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine. Shocking Russian ballistic strike on Sumy downtown, frontline updates, new defense packages for Ukraine. Let's talk about the most recent updates. My dear friends, this is the frontline focus. Let's roll. Yesterday morning, the city of Sumy in northeastern Ukraine experienced a devastating missile attack. At approximately 10:20 a.m. local time, two Russian Iskander-M ballistic missiles struck the city center when Ukrainian civilians celebrated Palm Sunday. The missiles hit a trolley bus and the Congress Center of Sumy State University. This area of Sumy was full of civilians attending religious services and a children's theater events. The attack resulted in the deaths of at least 34 civilians, including 2 children, and injured 117 others, among them 15 kids. Ukrainian officials have condemned the strike as a deliberate act of terror, noting the use of cluster munitions, which are particularly dangerous in populated areas. President Volodymyr Zelensky called for increased international support, emphasizing the need for enhanced air defense systems to protect Ukrainian cities. International leaders have also expressed outrage. European Union officials labeled the attack a war crime, and leaders from France, Germany, and the United Kingdom demanded an immediate ceasefire. Surprisingly, the US President Donald Trump, while calling the strike horrible, also attempted to justify the Russian terrorists, saying that they've made a mistake. On the same day in Kharkiv, a Russian drone Molnia, according to the local authorities, hit a kindergarten in the Kievsky district of the city. The building suffered a severe damage, but luckily no casualties were reported. Switching to the frontline news, Russia is facing significant challenges in replenishing its military forces at this point. Recruitment efforts are falling short, with regions like Volgograd and Saratov meeting only 7 and 14 of their quotas, respectively. To compensate, the Kremlin is turning to alternative private military companies, though these lack the strength of established groups like Wagner. Additionally, proposals such as new 2-3% military tax on citizens' income are being considered to fund these efforts. Also, Russian terrorists continue their attempts to recruit the military personnel abroad. Last week, 2 Chinese soldiers were captured in Donbass and interrogated by Ukrainian defenders, while North Koreans were only seen operating in the Kursk Oblast of Russia so far. These Chinese mercenaries were captured on the Ukrainian territory. On the battlefield, Russian invaders continue their offensive operations, particularly in the Donetsk and Luhansk regions. However, these advances are met with stiff resistance from Ukrainian troops. At this point, the line is pretty much stable, and besides killing civilians in Sumy, the Russian invaders haven't achieved any significant gains. Meanwhile, diplomatic tensions persist. Russian terrorists express skepticism about achieving a lasting peace agreement, citing the need to address what they term the root causes of the conflict. These include NATO's expansion and alleged discrimination against Russian-speaking minorities in Ukraine. Those are the biggest lies made by the Russian propaganda to justify its war against Ukraine. Fact is, the root cause of this war is literally Russian troops on the Ukrainian territory, which is an obvious thing. During the summit in Brussels, over 40 nations committed a record 21 billion euros in military support to Ukraine. Following the recent Ramstein meeting, Ukraine's international partners announced new steps to boost support. Germany pledged to deliver 4 Iris-T air defense systems and 300 interceptor missiles for those systems in 2025. Additionally, Germany will provide 30 missiles for the Patriot system, 15 Leopard 1 tanks, 25 Marder infantry fighting vehicles, and an extra 100,000 artillery shells. In total, Germany's additional aid package is valued at 11 billion euro through 2029. The United Kingdom announced a support package worth £450 million, which includes hundreds of thousands of drones, radar systems, and funding for the repair of previously supplied equipment. Norway contributed £100 million to co-finance the UK's aid package and increased its military assistance for 2025 by €5 billion. Norway also announced an additional €1 billion in aid specifically aimed at ammunition and air defense systems. Belgium confirmed a €1 billion military aid package. Denmark unveiled its 25th military aid package to Ukraine, valued at nearly €900 million. Lithuania plans to allocate €20 million for the purchase of ammunition for the Ukrainian defenders. Estonia will soon deliver 10,000 artillery shells, along with field rations for the Ukrainian armed forces. The Netherlands pledged €150 million to strengthen Ukraine's air defense capabilities, and an additional key outcome of this meeting was the formation of a new electronic warfare coalition led by Germany to enhance Ukraine's capabilities in countering Russian electronic threats. On this day, exactly 11 years ago, the anti-terrorist operation, or ATO, began in 2014 in the East Ukraine, occupied by the hybrid Russian troops. This operation was Ukraine's official military response to Russia's attempts of annexing regions of Donetsk and Luhansk, following Russia's annexation of Crimea in March of that same year. This operation was launched after armed groups of Russian nationals, led by the Russian FSB operative Igor Girkin, seized government buildings, police stations, and administrative centers across the Donbass. Ukrainian authorities declared the need to restore control over the territory and protect civilians from escalating violence. At the time, it wasn't yet a full-scale war, but it was the beginning of the hybrid Russian invasion of Ukraine, which would only intensify over the years. Initially, the ATO was limited in scale. Ukrainian military and security forces, many of whom were poorly equipped and not fully prepared for war, faced heavy armed groups supported by Russian weapons, intelligence, and in some cases regular Russian troops disguised as local militia. Thousands and thousands of Russian soldiers involved in this invasion were identified over the years. But despite those odds, Ukraine managed to reclaim several key cities over the summer of 2014. But the conflict turned into a prolonged war of attrition, with front lines settling around cities like Donetsk, Luhansk, and Mariupol. Over time, Russia began to push a massive disinformation campaign to reshape the narrative around the ATO. Russian media and officials made up a story of a genocide against Russian-speaking population, which of course was never confirmed or proved by international observers, the United Nations, or human rights organizations. But Russian state media repeated them endlessly, using this narrative to justify Russia's growing involvement in Donbass. By 2021, this disinformation became a key element of Kremlin's broader narrative to justify the full-scale invasion that followed in February 2022. Putin claimed Russia had to protect people in Donbass and stop Ukrainian aggression, framing the ATO and all of Ukraine's self-defense as hostile acts against Russia itself. The irony, of course, is that the original trigger for the ATO was Russian-led aggression involving ethnic Russian citizens. Today, the anniversary of the ATO serves as a reminder of how long the Russian hybrid war against Ukraine has lasted and how deeply it's rooted in disinformation and manipulation and military pressure from Moscow. It's also considered a day to honor the thousands of Ukrainian soldiers and civilians who've been defending their countries since the very beginning, long before the world turned its attention to Ukraine in 2022. The fight for sovereignty didn't start with the full-scale invasion. It started on days like this 11 years ago. With that, I wish you all a beautiful day. Please subscribe to stay informed about the most important updates and share this content to help Ukraine be heard. I'll see you in the commentaries. I'm operator Starsky. Thanks for watching.